Back for round 2 on the play again with a very sweet hand that we aren't going to mulligan. Turn 1 Chronometon is probably going to be pretty good this game. We even have the chance to protect it with negate in a certain way. I should probably grow it to something like a 5/5 so that it dominates most of green's creatures and is out of range of the most removal spells. Although 7/7 would also be nice to have a 3-turn clock. That's a Rancor. Next turn my Chronometon is basically a 4/4, so I can start blocking the Visionary, which means that this Rancor only deals 3 damage basically, but it's quite the card. I don't think I want him to have it. Would be nicer to answer with an Unsum, although that also isn't that insane on Elvish Visionary. Okay, Flinthoof Boar, but no way to give it haste. Now, I would like to make my Chronometon 4/4 before it's his turn to protect against Searing Spear, but then I can't block the Boar and Pump, so well, that's very interesting. It basically has to mean that he has, well, there's 2 options. Either he is completely out of his mind, or just doesn't have any other shot, which doesn't sound reasonable, or he has Kindled Fury to make my block really bad. So, of course, my block does get better if I wait 1 more turn. I could get him if he attacks with the Visionary as well, but it's really bad if I let the Brute resolve and then he has the Fury and I sit there with Essence Scatter and Healer of the Pride. Because then I drop Healer of the Pride, which can only block the Reckless Brute again, take a ton of damage. He drops something large. I think I might have to Essence Scatter here, although it seems really weird. Yeah, let's just do it. Of course, now he knows that I'm afraid of Kindled Fury, which means that he could attack with Flinthoof Boar easily. I don't get why he would attack with the Visionary though. Maybe I'm forgetting some kind of spell here? I mean, by Essence Scattering his Reckless Brute, I've telegraphed that I respect his Kindled Fury. In fact, I respect it a lot, so I'm not sure what his reasoning was there. If he wants me to block the Boar, I'm more likely to block the Boar if he only attacks with the Boar, because then I don't have the option to get an Elvish Visionary for free for the price of 3 life. This is interesting. Once again, he leaves this untapped, which you wouldn't really do if you had a Kindle Fury in hand and a Death Touch creature in play. But of course it might also be some kind of plan. I think both of these trades are fine. Knight of Glory isn't doing anything for me. I do want to get the healer down at some point, but I also want to make sure that my Chronometon does something, which I need it to be 6/6 for. Otherwise it dies to turn to Slag. This is also interesting because if I attack with the water cursor alone, I won't be able to pump it if I also want to pump Chronometon, but I think that's a price I'm willing to pay. Okay, this means he's going to play the Kindle Fury now, I guess. Which is fine with me, because then he doesn't pump the Hellion Crucible, and it looks like our read was in fact correct. We are going to start gaining some life, and things are looking fine. At this rate, it's going to take him a long time to kill us, and we have several cards to draw to make this Recluse worse. Arctic Aven also a card I'm happy to see, of course. And once again, I have the choice to trade Chronometon for Deadly Recluse, but don't think that's my plan here. I would love to see one of my unsummons, and even if it's just to deal 10 with Chronometon after bouncing his Recluse. If he attacks with the Hatchling, I would just attack back into the Recluse. So and that looks like a great draw. I expect him to trade with the Dragon Hatchling here, because he needs the Recluse against my Chronometon. So even though I won't be able to give the Aven lifelink, I think that saving it and giving my opponent another creature to worry about is great here. He could still draw a Prey Upon to trade Recluse and Chronometon, but that's about what I can think of, so I really want my Chronometon to be 10/10, so that when he decides to trade Aven and Recluse, I have another great threat on the board. But it might have been correct to drop the Harbor Serpent. The thing is that the Harbor Serpent is only going to be able to attack once I draw another island, so I actually might get more out of this by activating Aven and Chronometon each turn, which kind of depends on my draws, of course. But overall, I'm happy with just waiting on the Harbor Serpent. It's really interesting that he can't really trade the Recluse for the Aven because Chronometon is just too much of a threat. But in a certain way, he isn't beating the life linking Aven anyway. Maybe if he manages to draw something like Sentinel Spider, that would be good for him. Our deck is performing great. If you couldn't tell. Now the 6/6 Crusader can still be double blocked, which I don't really want. So now let's see. We have the 5th island. I think there isn't many ways to lose this game. So the Magma Quake only damages non-flying creatures. So this seems to be the right time to attack with everything except for the healer. That wouldn't make any sense. Now, of course, we only traded Chronometon for Deadly Recluse, but that wasn't played very well. I had to drop Harbor Serpent first, of course, but it doesn't really matter. Bringing him down to 4 and dropping another creature, missing the lifelink once again. So kind of a sloppy turn there, but I don't think there are any cards in the format to get out of this. So it seems. We had a nice read on the Kindle Fury, and I think that was really important to not lose this game very early on. So happy how that turned out. Now against green we might probably want to, against green red we might probably want to change some things, although we are very good at dominating his creatures later on. I kind of like Hydro Surge against Prey Upon and Death Touch. Encrust is nice against Rancor, although Hydro Surge also does some work against that. Safe Passage is also a card I like to have against red decks in general. Now Master of the Pearl Trident seems pretty weak, and also the Harbor Serpents aren't amazing because they won't be able to attack. However, they might be the best defensive card I have available. Phyrexian Hulk has 1 less toughness, which is relevant. So I'm going to play at least 1 Hydro Surge. This doesn't seem great, but I'm hesitant to take out all my cheap cards on the draw, especially. Now, what is Knight of Glory going to achieve? I mean, on the defensive, I don't remember seeing a creature it trades with, so that's actually a pretty bad sign. It might actually be better to play Master of the Pearl Trident, now that I think about it. I'm not interested in the offensive capabilities, and having another 2 toughness creature on the defensive is probably worth more. I think I need to keep the remaining creatures to not be too threat light, and I always like Negate as a general backup. Entrancer is nice. Encrust is probably the next card I would consider. Encrust or Safe Passage, but I don't see which card I want to take out for that. So yeah, I could take out a Scroll Thief, but I don't think that's the way to go. Let's see how game 2 goes first. It does start with a mulligan, it looks like. And we have a great hand once again, so no mulligan. But in a certain way, hands with lands and chronometons are pretty awesome. So the fact that he didn't have an early removal spell for it was of course crucial. It might appear that we only traded it for Deadly Recluse, but it also allowed our Aven to deal something like 15 damage. The power of the Archaeomancers hasn't really manifested, but we didn't really need it to. Now, he's going to be able to trade Torchfiend and Chronometon at will for 1 red, so it might be in our best interest to just continue curving out instead of trying to pump Chronometon 2 turns, which he is just going to counteract with a single red. Yeah, I think as sad as it is, that's the right course of action. If this didn't cost him any mana, it would certainly be correct, but it's very likely that he finds a turn where he has a red available. So here we can trade Welkin for Dragon Hatchling offensively, and he has the red to do either that or destroy Chronometon. But we also have a Scroll Thief, and that makes it a little bit interesting, because it means that we want to get most of his defensive creatures off the table, but both Torchfiend and Dragon Hatchling aren't that great at blocking a Scroll Thief anyway. So it's actually interesting. He might also have the Kindled Fury once again, so that's something to consider. And I think we are going to find out when we attack with Welkin turn. I would expect him to just pump here. It's the most natural thing to do. And who knows, maybe we can draw a Master of the Pearl Trident or an Unsum to get our Scroll Thief through. The longer the Chronometon lives, the more likely we are to find an Unsum as well. So this attack looks like he has the Kindled Fury again and wants to maybe use it to get rid of Scroll Thief. Which means that I could block with Chronometon, trading Kindled Fury for Scroll Thief, trading Kindled Fury for Chronometon. I don't think I want to do that, so I'm going to take 2 and hopefully force him to use his cards less efficiently than he wants to. And one way of doing this is by forcing him to trade the activation of Torchfiend for Chronometon. This is why I don't like this attack with Torchfiend. Even though he forced through 2 damage, he gave away a potentially potent trick. So once again we have the decision how to react to his Kindled Fury. And we don't really know what else is in his hand, so I'm interested in blocking with both Chronometon and Scroll Thief, because then he can't really, well, yes he can still, because of the ability of Torchfiend. So Yeah, this is really something we have to think about first. Okay, I was really hoping to draw something like Unsum first, but I think blocking with Chronometon here is the wiser choice. He can play his trick, whatever it is, Titanic Growth, that's fine. And after that, he's left with a 2-1 Torch Fiend, and I have a 1-3 Scroll Thief. So he isn't really gaining anything with that. And he did tap his mana incorrectly, I guess. Okay. Going to have to get an island next. Which is worse if he has an acidic slime. But better if I draw my serpents. I think that's more important. And the deck thinning plan didn't really work out here. At least this is a nice card. It would also have been great if he attacked with Torch Fiend and we rewind his Titanic Growth. At least he only has 2 red. If more of his lands would be mountains, we would actually be in a little bit of trouble. It would be nice if he played a spell there at some point, but given that we have Show of Valor and Rewind, I'm just going to try to brute force my way to some cards. Also gives him the option to misplay by attacking with his creatures first and then playing something without knowing if it resolves. Once again an interesting play because the Dragon Hatchling is the creature that can profitably block the Scroll Thief. I do want that healer in play at some point, but I have the great chance to keep my Scroll Thief on the offensive by returning Show of Valor. So that would leave me with a Scroll Thief and a 1-2. He gets back his Rancor, enchants Torch Fiend, and trades with Scroll Thief, in addition to anything he draws. The alternative is to just drop a Healer of the Pride and let him beat down with the Dragon Hatchling as before. But Dragon Hatchling does beat down for 5, so that's not the amount of damage I really want to take. So I think we have to play a little more offensively here. Theoretically, he could take the damage from Scroll Thief, now that he knows that we have Show of Valor, but I think that's highly unlikely. It wouldn't be the worst play though, because if he draws a mountain, he has us on a 2-turn clock. That's good to see. I really didn't want to face his flyer for too long, and hopefully we can draw an unsum before it's too late. And it's quite important that he hasn't drawn a creature here, which it seems he has. Hasn't, basically. I'm not too sure if I should even allow this trade, but once he draws another creature, he's going to... Whoa, playing against Rancor is actually pretty tough. I'm going to go healer and then gain back some life, so the fact that he could attack me isn't that relevant. But I would love to draw some cards with Scroll Thief. But if I draw an Unsum, I actually needed to get rid of Rancor most likely. So I'm going to let him keep his 4/1 Torch Fiend, which means that if he doesn't have anything, I can still use the Unsum to get in with Scroll Thief. And if he does have a creature, then it's important for me to Unsum it in response to Rancor. So I'm not even going to allow him to trade with Archaeomancer here. And we are drawing quite well. With the Healer of the Pride gaining back some important life. At this point I would probably just unsum my Archaeomancer and instead of anything else. He's really hesitant about blocking my flyers with Deadly Recluse, even though this board doesn't really have anything too dangerous. I'm going to go with Invocation, you can't really go wrong with that. Okay, give it haste to not attack. I'm just going to run everything out. The only card I can think of is Magma Quake, and I have some flyers, whereas he doesn't. So just going to gain as much life as possible and continuing the flying beatdown. It's possible that he has multiple combat tricks left in his deck, and he wants to draw one of them to trade the Recluse and Drake token profitably, but to be honest, yeah, he just had lands. That wasn't too bad. See you in the finals.